I'll just start playing.
Just get ready to jam.
Is it ready?
Yep.
What's up, everybody? Oh, sorry. I didn't know I was practicing there. I was just, didn't realize that we were ready to go. I just bought a bass. I saw it at a shop here in town and thought, boy, I haven't owned a bass in, oh man, since 1986. I think you're going to have to move that down, Aaron. So anyways, I have to get the action lowered. It's about a half a foot too high. But eventually it will be playable. I can barely press the strings down, but I'll get it into playing playing shape here in the next couple weeks. But while I'm doing this, I want to talk about bass lines for a minute, because this is something that we never really talk about. I've done some bass lines on the guitar, walking bass lines, or bass lines in general, whether you're playing jazz, rock, anything. There are certain principles that are going to apply, and it really kind of depends on whether you're playing one chord per measure. It depends on things like whether you want to have inversions. Aaron, what's Aaron doing? Are we live, Aaron?
Yeah.
Anyway, so boy, that's pretty informal. Okay, so we're set here. So, anyways, bass lines. So I was just playing over an F blues there. One of the things you need to know about in jazz bass is that you've got your two important notes, the root and the fifth. If you're playing over an extended chord, like an extended F7 chord, it's typical to actually play the fifth and the downbeat of the second bar. And when I say extended, I mean 2 bars on the same chord. So if I have F7 for 2 bars, I can play. Okay, so I did F, A, D to the 6th, flat 6 to the 5th. So I'm doing a leading tone into the 5th. That's a way to extend the chord change. A lot of times you'll have that, you'll go to the 4 chord in the second bar if you're playing a jazz blues. So you'll hear a lot of players play it. And they'll walk right in using that chromatic line approach. And one of the things that you have to know is where to put in the chromatic notes. For example, if I were to play an F major scale like this, well, I'm already on the B flat before the downbeat of the second bar, for example. If I'm going F7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you need to have a passing note to delay the resolution. So typically, there's your passing note, so that you get to that B flat on the 5th quarter note. You could theoretically go, but that's on square, so you don't want to do that. So then it's like, well, what do you do when you get to the B flat chord? So what I did there, da, 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 da. Now I just put it into chords. I played. So I did a B flat 7. I did lower neighbor back, and then I did passing B diminished to C minor 7. F7, I did da, da, do, and I did an inverted F major chord. So there's the downbeat of my 5th bar on B flat 7. So let's review this. 3, 4. So I did ba, ba, da, do, do, do. Now, those kind of bass figures there, you should apply to the guitar and the bass. and the piano if you're walking bass lines. A lot of times you'll hear Ron Carter and Paul Chambers people will go decadoo do da do. Now that decadoo is a triplet feel that you want to the bum 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 ba 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 bum bum. Usually it'll happen on da 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 or da da do da. You'll hear that kind of figure as well, which doesn't complete the triplet, but those kind of things are not necessarily natural on the electric bass or on the guitar because you don't really, most people don't think that way. When you're playing the bass this way, because the fingers come across the strings, it's when you hear that, you hear it like that, it becomes more natural because it's just a rake down. Okay, so you don't necessarily rake upwards here unless you're Frank Gambale and you do a rake. a rake like that, an upward rake in a line, but you want to think about those kind of rhythmic figures. So now I'm doing the same kind of thing. On the B flat 7, since I've got it for 2 bars, I played and landed on the 5th. I did a lower neighbor. You could go boo ba 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 C minor 7. Okay, so what am I doing there? Okay, so on the B flat 7 chord I did. I walked into the 5th that way, or I walked into it like this. Okay, and then you can go, and I'm using passing diminish, and I'm landing on the 5th there. So roots and 5ths are extremely important in bass lines. Roots and 5ths are important if you're playing pop music or rock music as well. A lot of times it depends on if you have an extended chord, and you might want to play the 5th in place of the root if you're looking for some type of interest. There's I was talking about this Nirvana song a couple weeks ago where in the chorus of the tune On a Plane, and it's cool because Kurt Cobain, you probably never thought I'd talk about Nirvana on here. I guess I've talked about Nirvana a couple times. So there's a song On a Plane, and the chorus goes. So let's go into a B flat major 7 with a 9, sus2, and Chris Novoselic is playing an F in the bass on this chord, which is really cool. And the second time he goes. Second time he actually plays the root, he alternates them. He would do a lot of things with the 5th in the bass there. Now, the other thing is knowing where to play thirds in the bass, how to play inverted chords, especially in simple chord progressions. It's going to make if you're a pop songwriter or something, it's going to make your songs much more interesting by taking the approach with using inversions in place of the root. Now, it may be a thing where you've got an F major chord, and then you want to go to a first inversion. Hold on a second. So I've got F major. Now I'm going to B flat, and I used a first inversion F major chord to go to B flat, because it's a half step below the root of the 4 chord, for example. And I use inversions all the time when I'm doing any kind of pop music, country music, anything. Constantly using inversions, putting the 3rd in the bass, putting the 5th in the bass. But one of the considerations you have to have is you never want to have the 3rd in the bass when the singer is singing the 3rd in the melody. What does that mean? Okay, if I have a C chord, I'm singing a 3rd in in the melody. I'm singing E over C chord. Ba. If I put the E in the bass, ba, I've doubled the third. And in 4-part writing, the first thing you learn in theory 1 is don't double the third on a major chord or a minor chord. It weakens the sound of the chord. I talked about this last week. One of the reasons why you on this G cowboy chord here, G open chord, most people put that note in there, they put the D in there. It's to remove the doubling of the third that you have here with the 2 B's. You don't want to have 2/3 in that chord. You want to only have 1/3 because it makes it sound a lot stronger. And I use the example of John Williams playing on the first chord in Star Wars. It's a B flat major chord, but there are 22 B flats, there are 3 Ds and 2 Fs. And one of the reasons he did this was that he wanted the sound of B flat to resonate with the listener. So he overemphasized the root. If the chord were more balanced, people would not be able to pick out the melody note. So they didn't hear that. If you had a nicely balanced B flat major chord, none of the notes would have stuck out. You might have heard the D as the melody, but he put the B flat as the highest note in the highest instruments, in the piccolos and the flutes, put it high up in the trumpets, does octaves on the first and second violins, and one of the few places. So in the French horns, he plays the full chord. In the trumpets, he plays the full chord, B flat major chord, divided into 3 parts. So he plays the first inversion, B flat major chord. And in the violas, he has the viola split where he has the D. I believe he has the D and the F in the viola part. And he's got the cellos and basses playing B flat. And he's got the first and second violins playing B flat. So the way that you orchestrate a chord, you can actually will determine the sound of the note that you're hearing as the melody note. I always talk about chord melodies and thinking about having the highest note of the melody is your highest note of the chord is where your chord melody is. Even if you're doing a simple song, let's say you're doing something like, Misty, for example. Okay, so Misty, if you take the beginning of it, right? Every note, the top melody note of every chord I played was the top of every chord is the melody. Da, da, da. Then I did some single notes. So I've got the do, da, 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 do. Then, and I put in single notes there because it's you could go with. Actually play thirds, for example, right? I use a sharp 9 chord. That doesn't sound as cool. And then same thing would work in giant steps. Very simple harmonization of it. Melody notes on the top as the top note of the chord. So I've talked about 2 different concepts here, back to back, the bass and the melody. Next thing you do is you put the bass and melody together. Now I like to talk about this a lot, that the way to learn standards is to take your bass line and try to come up with a melody part that incorporates both. I mean, you could do it where you've got where you walk a bass line. Let's say you did something like, let's say we're doing a tune like, let me think here. right there I have a bass line and a melody, and I'm filling it in with the inner note chords. That's, what was that tune? Monk. Blue Monk. Is that Blue Monk, Aaron?
I think so.
So I'm going. I did sixth as a way to harmonize. I could have gone. C. Did a different turnaround that time. First time I did which is cool. So, being able to incorporate the melody notes with the bass notes, and if you can fill in some more harmonic information in the middle, I mean, the first thing to do is just to play the melody and the bass line, right? And, you know, if you do, I always take a tune like All the Things You Are, 'cause it's easy, right? Now that's the absolute bare bones way to harmonize the bass and the melody. And then you start filling it in with some counterpoint. So when you're learning a standard, the first thing to do, learn the chord progression, learn the melody, how it goes. And then the second thing you do is you learn the melody and the bass at the same time. And you get the timing together. And a good thing to do is just play straight quarter notes in the bass. That's why these walking bass lines that I'm doing. Walking bass notes are really crucial to understanding how to do that, because it will inform you on how to connect the bass notes with each other. If I'm playing All the Things You Are, then I go, then I go. So that would be using like a passing diminished. So I'm filling in some more harmonic information, but just using the outer notes of the chords there. So I did a F minor 7, then I did to E flat 7 to E diminished 7 to A flat major 7, then I did, or what I did, either. And I did my D minor 7 early, then I did. I did G over B there. And I did. So just by staggering the bass line there, or even go. Every time through, I'm trying to evolve with it and change that, adding some passing tones and things like that. Even if you went. just upper neighbor tones, or I could do lower neighbor tones. I could do, oh, sorry. And that's a great start into developing your bass line and your melody at the same time, and just making it sound like two people playing. So I'm trying to stagger them, but keep the quarter note going. And I'm doing anyways, so that's kind of an easy way to like a basic way to start practicing, getting some independence in your lines, understanding how bass lines work together. Very simply, if you have two chords in a measure in jazz, a 2-5, you'll typically play, if I have A minor 7 and D7, I will play root, upper neighbor down to the next root, or root, lower neighbor to the root. You could also go root, passing tone, down to the third. So if I go da, do, ba, bum. So you should always practice these things where you're going to different notes of the chord. Now, if I'm going to go on a 2-5-1 and I play the fifth of the 5 chord, one of the problems is it's actually the root of the 2 chord. So really, your choices are your root and your third in the bass on the 2 chord. Otherwise, you're still pedaling on that you're on the fifth of the D, which would be A, which is still the bass note of the 2 chord. So you always want to be conscious of those kind of things when you're playing bass lines on guitar, on the piano. It doesn't matter, or on the actual bass. These are the basic principles of it. So chords that last 1 bar apiece, that's where you have time to play the scale. Usually you'll do either 1, 2, 3 passing tone. You always need a passing tone if you're moving in the ascending direction. If you're moving in the descending direction, let's say I'm walking D minor 7 to G7, descending, you don't need a passing tone. Because the fifth note, since there's a fifth interval descending and a fourth ascending, the descending lines don't need the passing notes in there. So that's another thing to kind of understand mentally when you're walking a bass line. Ascending, you're going to have a passing tone. Descending, you don't need the passing tone. I mean, you could put one in. I could put, but it's not a great bass line. And I went to the C over E. I went to the E in the bass there on that C major 7 chord. I went da do da bo da 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 da. I did G7 like da do 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 da. So I went to first inversion C major 7 chord, C major 7 over E, or C over E chord there. So those are great spots to put in inversions, things like that. Any questions on this, Aaron?
Well, I just did a straw poll on the next question.
Yes.
And we got, hey Rick, what chord progression promotes inspiration, sadness, or mystery? 11 votes on that.
Wow. What chord progression? Well, that's kind of, I think, dependent on the person. What chord progressions do I like that, that are like that? A chord progression that promotes sadness. I'll tell you one that I like a lot, and it's a Pat Metheny vamp. It's in a tune called Story for a Stranger, and it's just 2 chords. But he plays, I want to say, let's see, let me think about it. And the melody goes, minor chord, A flat minor chord. He goes right. He goes da da. Uses that flat six right at the beginning of the solo because that's the saddest note that you have. Da, da, da. Listen to that solo. That solo is one of the saddest solos that you'll ever hear. It's on Rejoicing. It's the first track on the second side, and it's just a 2-chord vamp. And I've got an A flat minor 9. It's just an A flat minor 9 to an F sharp sus4 with the third. So I get the third and sus4 together. But it sounds incredibly sad to me. I think partly it's because I'm not sure why, but it's a great progression of solo over, and he plays one of the best solos I've ever heard him play. It's on guitar synthesizer on it, and it's a real study in melodic development. There's a lot of polychords in it. It's one of the most complex tunes that he has in his repertoire that he wrote. Story for a Stranger, guitar synth thing. I think it's the best guitar synthesizer sound too. It sounds the most like a trumpet of any tune, and he just kills it melodically. I mean, it's really, really inspiring. And then, you know, I mean, there's a lot of classical music that to me denotes sadness and melancholy. I kind of equate the two. There's the cantata number 54 that I talk about all the time by Bach that's in the... there's a version of it with Glenn Gould, my favorite version. Glenn Gould playing with Russell Oberlin singing. It's a black and white video. It starts at about 9.5 minutes. If you just type in Gould Bach and find this thing, Glenn Gould starts out playing the organ at the beginning, and he has a long recitation on Bach and about this particular piece. Stand Firm Against Sin. I'm not sure what it is what is it in German, Aaron? I forget what the actual German is, but anyways, it's an incredibly sad, and it has this first chord, and Glenn Gould talks about this chord. And here's the first chord, which I think is an incredibly sad chord, and it's like da 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 da, E flat F, A flat B flat D. And that whole progression is unbelievably sad. Another one, listen to Bach, C-sharp major prelude from the second book of the Well-Tempered Clavier, but listen to Daniel Barenbaum's version. You can buy it on iTunes or listen to it on Apple Music or Spotify, whatever. And the reason I like Daniel Barenbaum's version is because the reverb on it and the tempo. Andreas Schiff, who's a great German pianist, Bach performer. He's German, right, Aaron?
Yep.
Incredibly great at interpreting Bach. That's one of his specialties. But Barenbaum's version is very sad and melancholy. And this is super sophisticated. Bach, C-sharp major prelude, book 2 of the Well-Tempered Clavier, not book 1. It goes through a series of chords, and it's something I'm going to talk about in my master class. I can't play it because it will get taken down immediately. They won't allow me to play it here, but I can talk about it in my master class, which I'm going to be playing things. For those of you that come to my master class here in Atlanta on July 29th in 2 weeks, you're going to hear me play stuff that I cannot play on here because of copyright stuff that I can actually play live. So that's one of the things that I'm going to play and talk about the harmonic analysis of it, because it's incredibly sophisticated and absolutely beautiful. There are so many suspensions in it. It's so sad. You talk about the saddest key, D minor with Spinal Tap. No, this is really, it's actually C-sharp major is the saddest key in this case, which is pretty hilarious that a major key is the saddest. Bach can make C-sharp major sound sad. Now that's saying a lot. Same thing with this first chord because of the voicing. Glenn Gould talks about this, that it's the most dissonant in Bach's harmonic arsenal, he says, and it wasn't until Wagner's time that anyone did any voicings like that. I mean, it's basically a B flat 7 with a fourth in the bass. And it's super powerful. It's super, intense. It's a suspended chord, okay, but it has that major 7th because it has the 5th in the bass. If you're thinking of a B flat 7 chord, is the 5 chord in E flat major, so it's a 5/1. And that is an incredibly sad chord. That to me, but I like, there are minor chords that are sad. There's Lydian chords that are sad. This voicing here is one of the saddest. Talking about sad, we don't even need to talk about sad chord progressions. We can talk about sad chords. That chord, because of the interval combinations in it, that was one of the chords I played Dylan in one of the videos, and Dylan's like, D flat, A flat, F, G, B flat, E flat, A flat. I just love that particular interval combination. Mainly, the first part of it is that you have that Lydian, but you have Lydian major, because you have the Lydian triad with you have the third there, you have the sharp 4, and then you have these this stacked fourths built off the fifth off B flat. So it's like this. It's sad over E flat, it's like an E flat mixolydian, but I was just doing one of my videos this past week where I talk about talking about last week about that soundtrack with the whale. What's it called? I always forget, Aaron.
Me too.
But it has this beautiful F minor 11, F minor 9/11 voicing, which I think is incredibly sad. Or you can do an E. I don't think it's quite as sad as it is an F minor. Or this is very sad. That'd be like a C Phrygian chord. So a lot of it has to do with kind of the interval structures and the relationships between one another in the chord forms. I don't know if you guys saw my video where I was talking about chords this past week, and I talked about the chord from Stravinsky's Rite of Spring polychord, E flat 7 over G, or E flat 7 in first inversion over an E major triad. But Stravinsky voices it as F flat major, but it's super powerful. It's got that, he does that. It doesn't really come out with this sound I have here, but it's a really super powerful thing. And that has an intensity to it. But it doesn't have a sadness. Sadness are like your Aeolian sounds, things like that will really kind of, Aeolians, Lydians can be sad. Lydians can be uplifting too. We talked about that last week. But once again, all depends on how you voice the chords. I can make Locrian sound sad. I can make Locrian sound more open, depending on what the combination of the notes are. So, next question.
You got any questions for them?
I do have some questions, actually. So it's my chance to ask you guys. So I've got almost 104,000 subscribers on my channel here, which is unbelievable. It blows me away every day. I put up a video on Keith Jarrett. It gets 10,000 views. And I think to myself, do people that follow me just not even know who Keith Jarrett is? Is it A, or they're not even interested in Keith Jarrett? And I'll put up a video like I did with 3 ideas, for your guitar playing, and it'll get many more views. But if I didn't have distortion on my guitar, I figured it'd probably get half the amount of views. But it's like the amount of distortion on my guitar is the barometer of how many people actually watch the video. And I'm curious why people click on videos and why they don't. I know that I have constituencies of people that like certain types of videos. That I know some of you like it when I do ear training videos. Some of you like it when I do theory videos, guitar videos, film scoring videos, and my channel is incredibly diverse. But I'm just curious, what kinds of things you guys, what makes you click on a video? Is it the thumbnail? Is it if you see me playing a guitar and you play the keyboard, you're like, oh, I'm not going to watch that video because he's got a guitar in it. I did a video on Gary Husband sounding off, and I know a lot of you probably don't know who Gary Husband, but he played drums in Alan Holdsworth. He plays keys with John McLaughlin. He's one of the incredibly famous fusion players, and those of you that are a little bit older, like my age, would know who Gary is. But you know, I know any of you that are younger wouldn't know him. But you ought to watch the first 20 seconds of it when he's shredding on the keyboard, because it's shredding like it's like Guthrie Govan times 10. He's shredding on the keyboard, and it's pretty unbelievable. If you don't do anything else, watch the first 20 seconds where he's just playing. He's on a synth, and it's playing these incredible lines. So I'm curious about that, about what makes you guys click on particular videos, and why a Keith Jarrett video doesn't get 50,000 views. I mean, is it just because nobody knows who he is anymore, or what? Because to click on it doesn't take anything. It just takes interest. Oh, I know Keith Jarrett. I mean, I have a Radiohead video that has a lot of views. And obviously a lot of people like Radiohead will click on that. I love Radiohead, but I love Keith Jarrett even more. And he's one of the greats of the 20th century. So that's kind of one of my questions to you. Do we have any answers here, Aaron?
We have a lot of answers, but we needed to put it in a poll form.
Okay, how do we put it in a poll?
I just made a poll. Tell him to
Aaron made a poll. It's all anonymous. I don't go back and look at these things anyways, as far as who comments individually about these. By the way, I love how people are incredibly positive in the comments. There's one person that wrote a comment in one of my latest videos. It was a comment on a commenter that a friend of mine who's another YouTuber made a comment. And a friend of mine who I actually saw yesterday, we went to the NAMM show in Nashville. I dragged Dylan up there. Dylan's first words upon walking in the place was "What time are we leaving?" So, anyways, and every time people would come up to Dylan and shake his hand, they recognized him. Dylan would be saying, "Hey, how you doing?" and everything. And it's like, come on, Dylan, shake hands firm and look at people in the eye. That's all you got to do, and say thank you. So, anyways, there was somebody had commented, and somebody says, another person commented after that and says, Rick's, it's not respectful to have these negative comments in Rick's comment feed. And it made me kind of crack up, because in the comment feed, people are so polite, and I love that. I think it's amazing. I think, you know, the kind of what we're doing here is so incredible, and I'm so appreciative of it, that I never have to police that stuff. I mean, I never have to. I think one time there was a comment war on one of my things. I mean, the perfect pitch videos I don't care about and everything, when those people rag on me and stuff, because they're ragging on me, and I just laugh about it. But it's when people argue amongst themselves that bugs me, or that I think is, there's no need to do that and everything. Everybody's here to kind of check things out and maybe learn a few things. So, answer Aaron's poll. Do we have any, how we doing here?
We got a lot of answers here.
Yeah! And wait, I want to ask too, this will be another poll. Do you like it if I talk about controversial things? What you guys don't know about me is that I'm the most opinionated person in the world, but you actually don't know that. Aaron, when he came here, he had been watching my videos and didn't realize that I'm actually unbelievably opinionated. But I try to present things with I try to be as unbiased as as I can be, because a lot of music is subjective. I don't think it's subjective because I have my own personal taste and I think I'm right always, but I try not to present things like that. I like for you guys to make up your own minds on them. Although when I bust people's chops and I say adults can't learn perfect pitch, then I get the pushback from it. But it was kind of a snarky video in that way, just to provoke reactions and everything, and because it's fun, and I'm just kind of pressing some people's buttons with that. So anyways, would you like me to be more opinionated in my videos?
See that thing here?
What does that mean?
Yes.
Yes. Oh. You want me to be if you want me to be myself, oh man, forget it.
And then on the other one,
yep,
we had, why do you click on Rick's videos? And the biggest one was, I only click on the videos that interest me specifically.
Okay, what is that, like what though?
Right, so now we need one. What interests you specifically?
I mean, it's amazing how many subscribers I have to my channel, yet in comparison, when I look at the views of my videos, I mean, overall, I get a lot of views, but they're spread out. I mean, I guess they're spread out over 300 videos. And I was just watching, somebody sent me a clip of some other YouTuber talking about my channel and saying he doesn't ever recommend any channels. Somebody sent me this today. And he says he doesn't ever recommend any channels, but he recommends mine. And he talked about ear training and about how, this really intense ear training thing that I do. And I was thinking, I said to Aaron, I was like, man, I hardly have any ear training videos. I mean, I have some, and there's Dylan's videos, and I do have ear training videos. And like the last video I put out, my film scoring thing, where I was talking about how to figure out these things by ear, because there's no film scores that you can buy the score unless it's John Williams and it's been out for 30 years. So you're basically relegated to having trying to develop your ear and figure them out to know what they're doing. But as far as straight ear training videos, I don't have that many. Yet this guy talked about this, and he said that my videos you have to rewind over and over because everything I say, every sentence is so information packed. I was cracking up, but that the things just fly by. So, and I know I don't slow down to teach people things because I always figure they have a pause button and they have a rewind function on here. You can always just rewind it and go back. That's what I do if something goes by. If I'm watching a video and I want to hear something again, of course I do it if I just like something in a piece of music and I just want to, because I want to hear it over and over and over and over. I'm that kind of person. I will rewind and drive my wife nuts and my kids nuts. I'll rewind the same 2 bars over and listen to it 1,000 times in a row, and I have the exact same feeling. Anything I like, for 50 years, I'll have the same feeling on it. I listen to that Bach Cantata 54, and I hear that first chord, and I just hear it. And I hear that melody, da 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 da, and I just, every time, the same reaction. I can't help it. It's just like, it hits all the right buttons. Yes, Aaron.
Tell them to click on the poll.
Click on the poll that Aaron just put up. I don't know what it is, but click on it.
We're going to find out what kind of videos people like.
What kind of videos people like. Aaron is the fastest poll maker here. They ought to hire him I'm going to hire him for my 2024 run for president. So I haven't formally announced yet, but I told my wife, I told my kids that I'm running for president in 2024. So you'll find out more about my platform, but I'm going to start by doing town halls all over the country on a different channel. And you guys are going to love it because I was down at the coffee shop a couple weeks ago with a bunch of my friends that are all in their 70s. They're all Southerners. They all live down here, and I've been down here in Atlanta for 25 years or so, and I used to have a big, huge black beard, and when I had my #1 country song, my buddy Bill that was working at the coffee shop down in the grocery store, he used to, I was joking with him that in Nashville, everybody called me the Sicilian redneck, and we would talk politics all the time, and he was, so I was sitting down with all these guys and everything. We were all talking politics, and it was amazing how much in common we have between us. And it's like people don't know what my political leanings are, and I laugh about that because I don't like to delve into politics and everything. It's incredibly divisive. And if I do, I focus on the things that are pretty much commonly agreed upon, which are actually about 90% of things people believe the same on. It's probably 95% of things in the United States. And I think in general, human beings agree with probably 95% of things on most issues. And I like to conduct myself in a way that focuses on those points of agreement, and then tries to figure out solutions to the disagreements in really practical ways. Anyways, it's the same. I try and do the same thing with music and solving things for learning and how to make your learning more effective. Aaron, do you have a result to this poll?
Yeah.
And any of you guys that want to support me in 2024, like I said, I'm going to start putting up my town hall meetings probably next year or so.
I'm putting up a presidential poll here, but so
my wife rolls her eyes every time I say this. She's like, "I hope you're joking, right?"
Are you joking?
I'm not joking. No, I'm not joking. 2024. I need 7 years to develop my platform and to go through over the entire country and have town halls with people in coffee shops and delis and diners and things like that, where I'm going to talk to groups of people and interview them and put them up on my other YouTube channel. Not until everybody learns everything about music first. Okay, so this is coming. This is way later. Yes, Aaron.
So people, what videos interest you specifically? People say all of the above as number one.
What is all of the above? What did you put in?
Music theory, ear training, guitar, film scoring, music production, piano. And music theory is close second.
Okay. Interesting. Well, this is the thing, is that music theory and ear training are pretty much all the same stuff. They utilize the same principles, because in order to know what you're hearing, you have to know theory so you can put the name to it. So those are completely interdependent. The film scoring, I always try and do things where I involve the ear as well, because that like I said, because of the lack of materials. One of the reasons I started doing these film scoring things, videos, is because there is no, if you want to know a Thomas Newman, what he's writing, you got to figure it out by ear. And a lot of people don't have the ear, and they don't have the background to be able to do it. They don't recognize the difference between a clarinet and an oboe. They don't know what a string voicing, like what are logical voicings that people use. They don't know things like, doublings within sections, divises, where you'd have two cello parts, or two different divises in the violas or in the violins or in multiple things, because they've not studied scores of Vaughan Williams or things with expanded orchestra or expanded string orchestra, things like that. And I played in orchestras, and I always knew that you have sections divided. That's extremely common, especially in more modern music. Especially when you get chords that have more than 3 notes in them, you get these voicings that are denser, and it requires to split up the orchestra multiple sections. Even if you have an expanded trombone section, expanded trumpet section, on that the Thomas Newman the other Newman, Randy Newman soundtrack, The Claw, which is from Toy Story 3. They have this voicing just in the trumpet section: A, B flat, E flat, A. So they have doubled A's. They have a half step. So they have 2 trumpet players playing a half step in the same section, and that's And then you have the French horns kind of interlocked with it, playing a second inversion E flat major chord. So it's all interlocked there, and knowing. And then you have the trombones. The bass trombones playing B flat, and the first and second trombones are playing G, and then the strings are divided up where they're playing that I think a B flat tremolo in octaves or in unison, and then violas are, I forget what the violas are playing, and then I think the basses are playing, basses and cellos are playing B flat. But but kind of understanding this stuff and understanding the theory behind it, these things you can't, unless you can figure them out by ear, you cannot, you can't learn anything from it. So that's one of the reasons why I started doing this. So ear training and music theory are completely interconnected. So those kind of just belong together. But all of the above. Okay, wait, what else here, Aaron? What else are we seeing? This is fascinating.
So yeah, number 2 was music theory.
Music theory, yeah.
20 votes. Number 3, ear training. But people are saying we need to redo the poll and take out all of the above because it's not going to get clear.
Okay, let's redo it here. Can you redo it?
Yeah.
And take out all the above? Also, if I play with distortion on my guitar and aim it more towards rock, are you more... I mean, I played with distortion in this last video. I'm a rock producer. I play with distortion all the time. People, I think, don't realize that because I do a lot of jazz and I do a lot of, modern classical theory and things like that. But I'm a rock guitar player. But I don't do a lot of rock guitar videos because there's a lot of rock guitar videos out there. Although I think I have a different take on it than most people. And honestly, I did a few production videos when I first started. If you go back and look at my early videos, I had mixing videos on there, and people watched some of them. Some of them were some big videos, but I kind of stopped doing it. Anytime I did any recording videos, people didn't seem to watch those. So I make videos on things that people are interested in knowing about. But you don't really know until you make the videos what people are interested in. But I made a video on Keith Jarrett because I like Keith Jarrett. And I think you guys should like Keith Jarrett and should at least know who he is. So I would say go and watch that Keith Jarrett video because it deserves more views than it got. Same with my last Iden Essen video that I put out. It's got like 4,500 views. That thing should have 45,000 views. You want me to be opinionated? Watch those videos. Don't, you don't have to watch any other ones. Watch those 2 videos. That stuff is important. That stuff you guys should know about. You want to become better musicians? Listen to some music that challenges your ears. That's the only way you ever improve is to challenge yourself. And you need to challenge yourself by exposing your ears to new sounds. Don't play the same stuff over and over. Pat Metheny said in an article, a 1980 guitar player, it's like, people that practice scales all the time, it's like polishing a water faucet and expecting it to make the water more pure. It really has nothing to do with it. Practice things that you don't know. Okay, not what you know. What you know, if you make a habit of it, you never move your playing ahead. Same thing with listening. Listen to stuff that you don't know and you don't understand. Because the more you listen to it, the more you're going to like it, probably, if it's really great music. And I pretty much only put great stuff up there. I'm not talking about my own stuff. But when I put that Keith Jarrett thing, that's a marvel of the 20th century. When I put the Iden Essen thing up there, that's a marvel of the 20th century that you should listen to. So, and I know there's trolls out there and everything. I was heartened when I saw the Gary Husband video, not only is Gary one of the greatest, he played with Alan Holdsworth on a lot of his classic records. He's a pro virtuoso on the drums and the keyboards, and I was like, got to 100 likes with no dislikes, and I said, wow, there's some, I understand people hating on me and everything, but I don't understand people hating on Gary Husband. He's one of the most gentle souls and inspiring guys that you'll ever hear an interview from, and so I look at that and I was like, man, I hope those people are giving thumbs down to me and not Gary. Like, how could you possibly do that? Anyways, Aaron, you got any results here?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Well, we didn't have as many people voting this time.
Oh, man.
We had 58 votes and 59. That's not bad. But music theory is number 1 here.
Yeah.
And then film scoring is number 2.
Wow. Okay. What else was I going to ask about, Aaron?
upload frequency, maybe?
Yes, upload frequency. Some people suggest, meaning Aaron, that I put out too many videos for people to actually have time to watch. And that if I put out less videos, people will get a chance to watch more of them. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not necessarily a believer of that. But I may be wrong on that. What do you guys think about that? Should I put out less videos or put them out, space them out more? Would you watch them more? Or are you going to still just watch the same videos that you watch that interest you? So the more I put out, the more frequency you get the videos that you like. That's kind of that's kind of what I've always operated under. And I, you know, I do my sounding off videos, I do my film scoring, I do my ear training, music theory, guitar, all this stuff. And I hit one of those topics at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. We got anything here, Aaron?
Not yet. But you should also ask, find out who the people are, if they're professional musicians.
Oh, here's another thing. So when I was watching this video of this guy talking to this other guy, it was weird. It was a lesson I was watching that somebody sent me. Somebody that follows my channel sent me this. And this guy said that Rick's channel is, the guy that was taking the lesson said, it seems like Rick's channel is for professional musicians. And I thought it was funny. It's like, how many of you are actually professional musicians? A lot of the people that I've had on Sounding Off have, you know, wrote to me because they follow my channel, that people that actually are professional musicians. And when I say a professional musician, I mean that you actually work making your living in music. I guess that would be a professional musician. Is that a professional musician, Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody that works. You either work in the, you know, you play cover gigs, you're a music teacher, you play in an orchestra, you work in film or TV composition, you're you know, you're a player that tours, you're in a pit orchestra, you're playing a cruise ship. I mean, how many of you are professional musicians? Or how many of you were professional musicians, or how many of you are retired even and coming back to music? I mean, that's interesting to me as well, because I know that there's people that are retired and have gotten back into music, and that's really, I love that. That's an honor to me that people would spend their time on my channel, you know, that are retired, and I think that's really, I don't know, that's very cool to me. So, Aaron, you getting responses here? Make sure you vote. It's anonymous. I'm not looking at this.
All right. Tell them to vote on the Who Are You?
Vote on the Who Are You, and I'm going to play some
Who Are You?
cool voicings. You know, I was thinking about this at the when I describe chords, this nomenclature now, that people that watch my channel, they know what a Lydian triad is, or a Phrygian triad, things like that, you know, they know a sus4 triad. They think of these things as actual consonant structures. A sus4 chord is that. It doesn't have to resolve to there or to here. That's a sus4 to a minor, sus4 to a major, or a Lydian triad to a major, or Lydian triad to a major. That these things can just stand on their own. I can just have this as a C Lydian chord, or I can have this as an E Aeolian voicing. So I love that this nomenclature. I know that people that watch this kind of just, nobody says anything about it anymore. They're like, oh, Lydian triad, yeah, 1 sharp 4 5. That to me is a huge thing, because there needs to be new naming conventions. And it's not new to me. I've been doing it for 30 years or more. And new ways to describe these things because they're heard all the time. When I was doing this last video, this film scoring video, where I'm going to be doing more in this series, a lot of these kind of voicings that I was picking out in the video are things that you hear. They're just constant structures that are typical to me. You know, like I said, when I hear that minor 9/11 chord, I know that, but I hear that structure in the video, that perfect fifth, major seventh voicing like that. That's a common structure. I call this chord a major 7 sus2, and that's just, you know, some people say, oh, that's a, add 9, no third. Well, there's no third. A sus2, anything sus means you're suspending it. You're leaving out the third, for example. That's why, like, a Lydian triad is like it's a sus with a sharp 4, and can resolve back down to the third in the same way. And the sus2 can resolve up to the major or up to the minor, and the flat sus flat 2, really, Phrygian, can resolve up to the sus2, or it can be So I resolved it to the minor. This is C Phrygian, C minor, C Phrygian to major. Except I did it to Lydian augmented there, but I resolved that to a major C major triad. I just changed the bass note. Could have done that, but I did. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. Yes, Aaron?
It's not loading yet. We gotta wait here.
Okay. Okay, so what was I just doing? Okay, so I was just talking there about these triads, for example, when I talk about a Phrygian triad, 1 flat 2 5, okay? And these are like essentially like I'm using the neighboring tones within a mode, okay? So in the Phrygian mode, it's based off of C minor. Let's say you're in C Phrygian, that you're. I think I must have done a little key switch there. So you get C minor, and if you lower the third, the minor third, if it's in Phrygian, it lowers to a flat second. If you're in Dorian, it lowers to a sus2. Just like the major, C major lowers to a sus2, to a C sus2, or it raises to a C sus4, or it raises to a C sharp 4 if it's in G major. Great sounds. Those modal sounds. Got to know those triads. Yes, Aaron.
So 71% hobby musician.
Nice.
26% professional musician, 2% retired musician, and 1 not a musician at all.
Wow. 1%?
1 vote.
1 vote. Okay. See, when I heard this guy say this, it was the student that was saying it actually, that, oh, I think his thing is for professional musicians. But I just think that he, I was talking with Aaron about this earlier, about things being over, some people say, oh, this goes over my head and I have to rewind it or whatever. Anything that goes over your head, you just have to listen to more and just rewind it a few times, and it'll stop going over your head, and it'll finally hit you in the head. So that's I think that's kind of an important thing, is to you know, go in and listen to this stuff. Like these things, I mean, I feel really strongly about this. You want to improve as a musician, you got to improve your listening habits. That's a big, big, big thing. And I'm talking about what you listen to in your spare time. People tend to rely on things that they're familiar with. They'll listen to the same pieces over and over for years and years. My brother, one of my brothers, loves the Allman Brothers, and he'll listen to this stuff, or Eric Clapton records that he listened to 40 years ago. It's like, why? There's so much other music out there. My younger brother John, though, he's always listening to new stuff. Well, he plays in a cover band, maybe that's why. But he's and my next older brother Ray, they always are listening to new music. But my older siblings, they only listen to stuff. My sister Pat was telling me she's 64, and she was going to see this Carole King movie, Tapestry. It's her favorite record of all time. It's a phenomenal record. I actually went back and listened to it. I haven't listened to it since 1971 or whenever it came out. And I went back and listened to it the other day because I hadn't heard it since she listened to it a billion times when I was growing up. But she's going out to see it. Although she's hip to some new music too. I mean, she's not totally out there. She's hip to music that most people her age are not hip to, for sure. That's definitely sure. But most people rely on the same stuff that they grew up with up until that midpoint in their early 20s or mid-20s, and then they kind of stagnate there. But it's avoiding that stagnation that's going to move your playing and your abilities ahead. Listen to this stuff. Listen to that Keith Jarrett thing. Listen to that Haydn piece. Incredibly important. Yes.
Can you talk about Joe Satriani's approach to harmony?
You know, I wrote to Joe's manager today, Mick, as a matter of fact, about Joe getting on sounding off. And I want to talk to Joe about his harmony. So I don't want to talk about Joe until I hear back from him.
Good day.
As a matter of fact. I talked to Steve Vai, and he said talk to Mick, because I want to have the G3, all the G3 people on. I've had John Petrucci, Steve Vai, I want to have Joe, I want to have Eric Johnson. I'm trying to think of the other people that have been on the G3. Who am I missing? I know I'm missing somebody. Come on, someone on there knows this. Who else has been in there?
Paul Gilbert.
Paul Gilbert, was he in G3? Was he in there too? Oh, Yngwie was in there too.
Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Morse.
Steve Morse. Didn't I mention Steve? I'm gonna write to Steve Morse too. Awesome, love Steve Morse. The Dixie Dregs are getting back together. Just saw that, which is super cool. For those of you that don't know the Dixie Dregs.
Could you recommend a few people to listen to, just to improve as a musician?
You should listen to those people that I post. I hardly post any videos about. When I post videos on particular musicians on my channel, I do it for a particular reason. Go to my channel, listen to the pieces. There's Haydn Essen pieces on there. There's about 3 or 4 of them. Go listen to those. Listen to the Keith Jarrett. Listen to Michael Brecker. There's people that listen to Pat Metheny, all of his records up till 1984. And for those of you, there's me being opinionated. After 84, I got lost on Pat, honestly. Once Pat's, I never say this really, but once Pat's playing, once his technical abilities reached his, what he was hearing, to me his playing was just did not develop anymore. And I lost interest in it after seeing him play, many, many times in the 70s and 80s. When he was struggling to get his ideas out, his ideas were the most interesting because he didn't have any fluff in his playing. There was not a lot of this chromaticism that I think later on turned into a crutch. If you're going to listen to things like, if you don't know the works of Alan Holdsworth, go listen to a Tavakron, go listen to IOU, go listen to some of his early, some of the early records he did, Metal Fatigue, listen to some of those. Listen to, there's many classical pieces that you guys should be familiar with. Listen to the Fantasia on a Theme of Thomas Tallis by Vaughan Williams. When you hear that, you'll say, "Wow, all these film scores stole everything from him." It's written in 1916. He was good friends with with Gustav Holst, who wrote The Planets, that is referenced by all these great composers, John Williams, but all of them, James Newton Howard, all these people basically lift stuff from all these people. So that's another piece to check out. There's many classical works from the Romantic era through the Impressionistic era, through the into early 20th century, into things that are atonal, things that are serial music, and things that are like Aaron Copland, that are tonal music. We were listening to Appalachian Spring the other day, which is amazing, and there's a recording of Copland conducting a rehearsal where he's talking to the orchestra. I want to say it's the New York Philharmonic. I can't remember now. And to hear Copland talk about how it should be played is fascinating. To hear him rehearse the orchestra and tell him about how to articulate things. I don't know if I found that. That was not on Spotify, was it, Aaron? I actually had to get that because I had it on CD and it's not available anywhere. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's just like the Keith Jarrett thing that I put out on my video. People are telling me, well, I can't find it. And then I come to find out that they didn't include it on the CD because it's 64 minutes. But I think it is on, I'm pretty sure it's on iTunes. And it's in this Bremen concert from 1973. But it's 34 minutes into the piece. And most people won't listen to 34 minutes with Keith picking around inside the piano. When they get to this gem of an amazing 2 minutes of music, and then this gospel playing that's so soulful, it's unbelievable. Go and listen to the Bach pieces I talked to you about. Go listen to those particular things. I already gave you those. Daniel Barenbaum. Listen to his entire books 1 and 2 of the Well-Tempered Clavier. Listen to Glenn Gould. Listen to some of the masterworks that you haven't heard. Listen to Beethoven's 6th Symphony, okay, the Pastoral. It's unbelievable. It's super melodic. Everybody knows the other. They know the Eroica. They know Beethoven's 5th. They know the 8th. They know the 9th. But a lot of people, the 6th Symphony is one of the most beautiful symphonies. It's in F major, and it has one of the most beautiful themes. And it's a programmatic music. It sounds like it has all these sounds of nature in it. Listen to Beethoven's 4th Piano Concerto with Christian Zimmerman, a Polish pianist, playing it. It's one of my favorite versions. And it's recorded incredibly well, and Leonard Bernstein's conducting. Listen to that. That is amazing.
A word on John Scofield?
Love John Scofield. Oh, man. One of the greatest. I need to do some videos on John Scofield. One of the reasons that I interviewed Dennis Chambers, I love Dennis's playing, but I heard him first on Blue Matter and Loud Jazz. His playing is incredible on that. I got the opportunity to meet John and hang out with him all day in 1986, I think it was. I picked him up at the airport in Boston, drove him around, drove into town. He had his guitar case, which I was lugging around myself because I was the grad assistant at New England Conservatory. He came in to do a master class. And it was really when he was getting famous. And we walked into the lobby at Berkeley. He's like, I want to stop in Berkeley for a minute. I want to say hi to one of my buddies there, one of the teachers. I forget who it was he was talking to, but we went in and he got mobbed in the lobby, and then we couldn't go, couldn't get in because he was like a rock star then. He was like Van Halen had walked in. It was John Scofield in 1986. And so we took off and we went to this pizza place, ate pizza, then we headed down to New England Conservatory and dropped his stuff off. He did a clinic, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and I love his playing. And he played through my amp. I forget, I had an amp there at school that was a JCM 120. I think it was a Roland JCM 120. And that's what he played through. He played through my amp. I brought it down for him. Or I had it there as like a practice amp or something at school. And he turned it on. He brought a tube screamer with him. And that's the only thing he had as far as effects. He had a tube screamer. Maybe he had a chorus too, but he sounded phenomenal, and I love his playing, and it's so slinky. And when I interviewed Scott Henderson, Scott said that John Scofield was a big influence on him. And for those of you that know Scott Henderson's playing, you can hear the Scofield in it, obviously. It's, the way he plays his diminished lines, the way he breaks up his phrases is very Scofield-esque. Love Scofield. But I first got hip to him when he was playing with Miles, and that was I mean, honestly, for me, the dropping off point, here's opinion for you. The dropping off point of Matheny in the mid-'80s is when Schofield picked it up and took things and continued on. And I was really glad about that because I felt Pat's playing. I always feel that people that tour a lot, Pat used to tour 350 days a year or something, and I think that as an improviser, you need to take breaks, and you need to take time to refresh your playing and work on new things. I remember Larry Mullen from U2 was one of my friends ran into him in New York City one time. This is back before Achtung Baby happened. Height of their career, in between Joshua Tree and Achtung Baby. He says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I'm taking drum lessons." It's like, what? He was in the biggest band in the world then, 1989, 1990. He goes, "Yeah, I'm trying to come up with some new ideas." And this is a guy that came up with all these signature, you think about U2 songs. Sunday Bloody Sunday, signature drum part. Bullet the Blue Sky, signature drum part. I mean, all their songs, like Mysterious Ways, all the stuff that was on Achtung Baby and on Joshua Tree. There's all these, every song has a really unique drum part that's a signature of the song. Just like 50 Ways to Lose Your Love, or the Steve Gadd part with Paul Simon. Drummers that are able to write signature parts that cannot be separated from the song and the grooves are identify the song, that's a hard thing to do. It's hard to play a groove and come up with it. Dave Grohl did it on Monkey Wrench. I mean, that's like, it's hard to do it in rock. John Bonham did it all over the place on you think of what's the tune? What's the tune? Good Times, Bad Times. Thank you. Right from the first song in the first record, John Bonham was writing original grooves. I mean, they're all over the place there. When he played, in 4, when they were playing in 7 on tunes, and when he played, on Black Dog, they're playing odd times and he plays straight. I mean, these are just classic grooves that make the tunes what they were. And Larry Mullen was there to take lessons, to get better, to be inspired, to play new things. And he went on and made Achtung Baby, which has super signature drum parts like Mysterious Ways, amazingly great creative drum parts. And there you go. People, it doesn't matter. You gotta look for new influences all the time. And John Schofield, to me, as a guitarist, picked up where Pat left off and moved the bar there in the mid-'80s in a different way. And that's not to diminish anything Pat's done. I mean, I heard Pat play 3 months ago and he sounded great. But you don't, but not like he played in 1982. There's a blues that's on from Kansas City that I have a recording of, a bootleg of. That's it's the best blues I've ever heard Pat play, and one of the best blues I've ever heard anyone play. It's unbelievable. So once again, that's stuff I can play in the master class that I can't play here. So I also have a recording of Pat on playing and rejoicing. He played on at the Village Vanguard with Charlie Hayden and Billy Higgins, and I taped that. And Pat hates people taping, and I was sitting 5 feet from him. He didn't say anything, so that's, I don't know why. He probably saw me recording his gigs like many times before that. So, Aaron?
Where does Rick Beato get all his energy from?
Oh, tons of caffeine. Just kidding. Where do I get my energy from? From my kids. I love them. They're the best. They got tons of energy, so I have tons of energy. I love music. I listen to it and I get the same feelings I got when I played D major. I learned D sus4 to D, and I learned my first pentatonic scale, and I learned how to improvise. I'll tell you a little story. My younger brother John started playing guitar at the same time I did. I was 13 or so. I was in 7th grade, and I started playing, and he started playing, and my buddy taught me the pentatonic scale, and so we started jamming. We jam on Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix all the time. So anytime my brother would say, well, you play the chords for me, I'm going to play the first solo. And he'd play for 5 minutes straight. And then when it came time for me to solo, he'd put the guitar down and we'd get in a fight. So my mom said to me, and my mom was old then. She had me when she was, almost 40 or so. And my brother John was 4 years younger than me. So my mom said, I'll play chords for you. So my mom took the guitar, my brother's Les Paul, and she was like, I was 13. She must have been my age. She was in her 50s. And she played a G like this with these two fingers. And she played the Hey Joe chords. And she would play for 5-10 minutes for me. She'd just strum the chords. And my mom would play while I would solo. And I would solo with distortion. My mom grew up in the Depression. They didn't know what distortion was or anything. And she was so cool. She would play so that I would get a chance to improvise and practice. And so that we wouldn't get in fights. She said, I'll play chords for you. I mean, how cool is that? That tells you something about me. So when I'm doing stuff for you guys, I just think of my mom. Hey, my mom played Hey Joe for me for like 15 minutes straight while I noodled around in an E minor pentatonic scale. So, playing Jimi Hendrix licks. So that's where I get my energy from.
A lot of people are asking about daily routines, daily practice routines, but also daily ear training routines. Is there anything you can recommend?
Absolutely. The ear training and transcription, I have an ear training series coming out. I've been saying this for a while. It's like 13 videos. It's taken a while to get done. It will be done soon and be available. But transcription is the best thing to do for ear training. I don't think being able to recognize intervals is great. You need to be able to recognize simple intervals played harmonically, which are called dyads, and played separately, which are melodic intervals. You need to be able to recognize those. You need to be able to recognize them up through a tenth. So, because you have to recognize a minor ninth, a ninth, major ninth, and a tenth interval, because those are really common in. You'll hear these kind of things like in spread triads, for example. And then, but transcribing things, just like I transcribe things for you guys on the fly when I'm making my videos of, James Newton Howard or Thomas Newman or John Williams or James Horner. I've made all these film scoring things where I'm figuring out the stuff by ear myself. And I listen to it. And how do you get better at figuring out stuff by ear? By figuring it out by ear. So you make yourself a list of things you're going to figure out. Pick a soundtrack. Pick 3 sections that you like. It may only be 3 chords. Watch the video I did. What was the video called, Aaron, the film scoring thing? I just did it a few days ago. Whatever it was. I just did a video on film scoring.
What the pros know.
What the pros know. Watch that video. Study it. I take some pieces. I take chords from all these different film scores, and I instantly identify them and explain what they are. What you need to do is you need to get a vocabulary. As soon as you hear these chords, you got to know that this, is a Lydian sound. You got to know that anything you hear. I mean, I come back to that minor 9/11 sound. That just has a sound to it. You should instantly, you don't have to know what it is. You should just say, that's a minor 9/11 sound. I recognize that interval. I recognize that interval combination. And the only way you do it is by plinking out the notes one at a time on the keyboard or the guitar, and you figure them out. Or you hear it in this key, and then you go to the guitar and you go, same chord voicing, nope. Oh, brother. Man, why'd you pick this sound, Aaron? These same chords in the strings work right on the guitar and on the keyboard. And they work in the orchestra. You voice that chord for an orchestra, it'll sound just like that. It'll sound amazing. Transcription, first thing you do when you're getting warmed up. I would do warm-up exercises for those of you that are older, that are my age. Do some type of warm-up routine. Don't do finger pattern exercises. Waste of time. Do stuff that is melodically useful to your improvisations. People that do this stuff, that stuff is just a waste of time. Don't play things that are just finger pattern. Well, that you might use some of those. Some of those you'll use, but just don't play things to play patterns unless you're going to do. Unless you're going to play a chromatic scale like that, because you might use that in a bebop line, at least a little part of it. The chromatic scale, that you can use because you'll use, you'll use that in lines. I use that much, or right. But if I play, I can't really play with my guitar like that. See, I need to practice it here. Turn off this stupid delay. Ah! See, my fingers are starting to catch up. My right hand's starting to catch up. But that's not that useful of an of a thing to practice. That'll get your hand moving. You're better off if you practice scales in sixths and fifths and sevenths and fourths. Those kind of things are important. Practice stuff that you would use in your improvisations. That's second. So technical stuff, or first. Technical, spend 10 minutes on technique, then spend 30 minutes on ear training, and then spend the rest of your time on whatever repertoire you're going to do. Working on new lines, playing with a looper, playing over a sustained chord here that you do on a keyboard, and you hold down the foot pedal and you work on it. Things like that. Work on new sounds, new interval combinations, new melodic motifs that you might use on your gigs and your improvisations. So that's what I would do. And if you have the luxury of practicing a lot, a good 2 hours, that's a good practice session. 2 hours is a good practice session if you have it. 1 hour, yeah. If it's maintenance, 30 minutes is maintenance. An hour, you can start getting into new stuff. 2 hours, you're really developing ideas in 2 hours. Learn some tunes, too. Learn some standards. Learn some rock tunes, whatever it might be. With your transcriptions, you don't have to write the stuff down. Just learn it on your instrument. Learn stuff from other instruments, too. Don't just transcribe guitar stuff if you're a guitarist. Don't just transcribe keyboard stuff if you're a keyboardist. Learn some Stevie Ray Vaughan licks using your what do they call it, Aaron? Your pitch wheel or whatever. Practice some mimic guitar and stuff with that. Learn how to do that. Next question.
Are you gonna have Michael Leake on sounding off?
Wait, near back from actually wrote to him. Boy, I got this everyone that you guys have suggested, I've reached out to. I'm waiting to hear back from Guthrie. He said he would be on. I wrote to him again the other day. Pat Metheny's manager said he would be on, and Pat is AWOL. So I'm hoping his manager hits me back. But I don't know. We'll see.
So for the people that just bought the Beato book, what are some ways to start navigating through it? Do you go from start to end, or do a few pages a day?
It really depends on where you are as a player and how you use it, because it may be that some of the theory stuff up through the first 20 pages, and then when I start getting into all these chord substitutions and how to harmonize an F blues 25 different ways, that you're like, whoa, what is that? So you start from the beginning and go to where you don't understand stuff, and then pick it up from there and start going through it. But it's the kind of thing where you can just open it anywhere. I have a hard copy version of it here, and I go back and I look at stuff. There's a thing I call it 12-tone triads. They're really called quadrotonal arpeggios, and they are. I have a little chapter in it. I have some lines built on it, and it basically you take four triads, hence the name quadrotonal, and you build lines from them, and you get 12-tone rows. For example, first one would be C minor, D minor, E major, F sharp major, and you build lines over those four chords. There are all these different formulas for that, how to build 12-tone lines by using combinations of four triads. They can be Lydian triads, they can be sus4 triads, major triads, diminished triads, any of the ones we're talking about. And I have a bunch of them listed, but there's many, many, many of them. So that's something I go through and look at. And I said this to Aaron, hey, see how many different combinations you can make out of these four triads. And it's fascinating to try and voice lead it properly. If I'm going to play, let's see here. Let me pull up a piano if I can. I hate computers. So, hold on one second here. Instrument. Piano. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can do this. So if I've got a piano here, and I've got those. I try to don't repeat any notes and play. So I'm going to go like this. Or I might go. And then I'm going to go to my closest note. Try and find the half-step resolution, C minor. Okay, so that's a 12-tone row there. I did C minor. I did C, G, E flat, leading down a half step. Try and find those half-step resolutions. And then I did D minor, so I'm going D, A, F, E, B, I'm sorry, E, what did I do? E, B, G sharp, F sharp, or A sharp, F sharp, C sharp. I could have done, here I'd have to go like this. I did. That's what I did. So I did, that all has half-step resolutions, okay? But there's all these different four quadrotonal arpeggios, all these different formulas for how these triads work together, how to figure out the combinations of them. And then practice improvising over those and never repeating a note and see how long you can go without making a mistake. Try and find the half steps. You don't have to find the half steps. You can just go. Right? You can go. And you don't have to do them in the same order. I can go C minor, E major. So I did C minor to E major to F sharp major to D minor. Okay? Or I can do D minor, C minor, E major, F sharp major. So I'm combining them every way and just see how long you can keep those patterns going without repeating a note or making a mistake. Take it on an instrument like piano like that. It's a really great thing to do. And when I'm doing that, I'm doing that and I'll play it over a pedal tone. So I might do something like this where I play it over a C bass note and I'm going. And then I go. Then I might go to quadrotonal arpeggios. That's the first one in the Beato books. That's someplace I would go to look. Pick a different topic each day. Drop 2 and 3 voicings. Go through and start learning those. There's a ton of them in there. Work out a chord melody that uses all drop 2 and 3 melody things, or that combines drop 2 and drop 3 voicings.
Shout out to HK who just donated £10 here on the super chat.
HK, what's up, man? Thank you. You're the first one that's ever donated the super chat that Aaron turned down last time. I think the first time we've ever used this, or is this the first time we've ever used it? Second time we've ever used it. I don't even know if people know what super chat was. I didn't know what super chat was until Aaron was he the one that asked that question, or does he have a question?
No, he just said thanks guys.
Awesome. The man. Love it.
But we have a really good question here about
yes.
So when you're not at your instrument,
yep,
just mentally, is there a way you can practice when you're sitting in the
absolutely
car, or what do you do?
What do I do?
Or what does one do?
I'll tell you what I do when I'm practicing. I think of tunes, I think of pieces of music, and I try and imagine them in my brain. And I sing through them, and try and sing as far as I can. I use Klaus Ogerman and Mike Brecker's Cityscape. Did this in the car yesterday. Dylan was in there, and I said to Dylan, "Hey, Cityscape, sing it." And he's like, I'm thinking like that's the right key in my head. I'm not sure if it is. Aaron, can you find Cityscape on there?
What's the
Klaus Ogerman, Cityscape. And I try and make a mental picture.
Oh wait, that was you. Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay, so how did you get that?
It was on YouTube.
You found it that fast, man. Okay, so that was Cityscape. I don't have perfect pitch, but I centered my brain and I imagined exactly what it sounds like, and I play it in my head. That's what I do for practice. Anything that I can think of, I replay. I'll think of Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. Can you find Beethoven's? I'm not using relative pitch, I'm imagining. No, wait, hold on. That should be right.
What?
Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, first movement.
First movement.
Yeah. You missed it. Oh, I got it. No, you're too early. You missed it. You're late, I mean. I'm not using relative pitch. I'm imagining it in my head, what it sounds like. That's in a completely different key than the Michael Brecker, which starts with a diminished lick anyways. It's like, what key is that in? And I play those kind of, that's the kind of thing. I try and use my brain as a tape recorder and play things that while I'm driving in silence. I always drive in silence. I almost never, I don't listen to music very often in the car. I drive in silence, and I use my brain as the music player. And I imagine these things like that. I mean, I just I'll pull these random things I haven't thought about in years, and see if I can hear them. And I like ba 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 ba, that Bach thing that I just did. Okay, so I just sang that without using relative pitch. Once again, I just hear the sound of it, that chord, and I can just sing it without even thinking about it, because it plays like a tape recorder in my brain, because I've trained my brain to think like a tape recorder. How's that for an answer? Did that make sense?
Great.
So I just did Bach, I did Michael Brecker, and I did Beethoven. Those are three pieces you should know, though. Yes.
Somebody just donated $5 to get you to talk about Keith Jarrett a little bit.
Oh, come on. What should I talk about? I talk about Keith Jarrett forever. What is my favorite Keith Jarrett? You want the Beato opinion? Spirits 20. It's on the Spirits record. People don't know it. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to play it here. It'll get taken down, but I don't care. Hold on. Let me find it here. I know I'm not in the video here, but my icons are so small. I don't know why my icons are so small because I can't see them. I'm going to type in Spirits.
Just look up there.
I got it right here. Oh, yeah, up there.
Yeah.
This is Keith Jarrett, Spirits 20. Now, some of you don't realize Keith Jarrett plays saxophone. He plays soprano sax, and it's him playing everything on this. Recorder, piano. Check out this right here. Oh, that's how you play on a major chord. And then Spirits 20, you should know. Parallels, great, amazing tune off Dark Intervals. I like obscure stuff like that. I love Standards Volume 1 too. All the Things You Are, best Keith Jarrett ever played on a record. Some of the best he ever played. As far as playing straight ahead tunes. There's a record called Birth that's unbelievable. Dewey Redman, Paul Motion on it. It's also one of the best sounding jazz records ever. I have it on vinyl. It's phenomenal. I love, obviously, the solo works that he's done. I love I love Bop B, which is another bebop record he did with Charlie Hayden's on that. I believe Charlie Hayden, Paul Motion's on that. There's all the work that he did with the trio is great, but really the early music is spectacular. The music in the 70s. The inspiration that he had in his 20s and early 30s is just unbelievable. The world was a very different place back then. I know because I was around, and people had very different. There was no internet, so there were no comment sections and things. No way to give thumbs down to things. You listen to things that you liked. If you were lucky enough to be able to own a record player and buy a Keith Jarrett record, then you were a lucky person. And his music is just incredible. I mean, I just played you him playing the soprano sax and the piano and recorders. And the Spirits record, it's all on cassettes. He just overdubbed everything, and it's phenomenal. Most people don't even know that record. It's like, it's how great Keith Jarrett is. I played a tune, I did my video the other day on a Keith Jarrett thing that's 34 minutes into an improv. And right before he plays this beautiful part, he's picking inside the piano with his fingers, like for 5 minutes. But I listened through that because even the picking inside the piano was beautiful, even though I don't know how he knew what notes he was picking. But Keith Jarrett is one of the greatest geniuses of the 20th century and 21st century. Okay, was that good? Was that good on Keith Jarrett? Man, I could do like 25,000 videos on Keith Jarrett. I'm going to talk about him in my master class for those of you that come. We'll listen to more Keith Jarrett.
Can you play some bass?
Play some bass. You know what? I would play that bass, but I can't press the strings down. It's they're literally it's literally impossible to play. I can barely play an F on it, and I can't play anything in first position. But I will have my bass on. I will make some bass videos coming up here. I have to have the bridge taken down about literally a half an inch needs to be taken off it because it's pretty much unplayable even with a. It's hard to play with a bow. I can't even play with. I can't press down the strings on it, so I got to get my chops together. It's going to take me probably 2-3 weeks to do that after I take the bridge down. Aaron? One more.
One more here.
Is there a lot more or what?
We'll just keep asking questions.
Okay, well, 3 more.
Can you be a bit more in depth about musical imagery? Where can I learn more about this?
I'm not sure what musical imagery you mean, like imagining stuff like I was doing. Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah.
It's really hard. You can't really teach musical imagery. Musical imagery is it's like I talk about adults can't develop perfect pitch, but adults can develop incredibly good tonal memory. It's not the same thing, and it will never be as fast as perfect pitch. But I can imagine any tune in any key, back to back, without relating it to a tonic or when I was singing those things, when I sang ba 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 ba. I mean, I just listened to the Keith Jarrett thing. I've listened to other stuff. I've been talking. Yet, I think of that Bach chord, and those notes pop into my head. That's using musical imagery. I just hear the sound. And it's practicing hearing the sound and then go and play it and see how close you are to it. And then listen to it again, internalize it, come back to it an hour later, play it again. Keep playing those sounds till you hear them. Eventually you will hear them. You got to play music in your mind. You have to imagine it. Imagine that you're a prisoner somewhere with no access to music, and you have to have your mind as your tape recorder, and that's all you have. Let's say there's no electricity anymore, and you don't have any instruments, and you're on a deserted island, and I can still imagine music in my head, and I can imagine it incredibly vividly because I've actually worked on doing it. Does that help?
And a few tips on learning composition.
On learning composition. A few tips. Okay, you have to learn about the different species of counterpoint. Okay, which we really haven't talked about. I haven't made any videos on it yet because I'm trying to figure out how to do it as far as if I'm going to do it with examples that are pre-existing or examples of things I'm going to write. But one of the things I did with my son Dylan when he was a baby, or not a baby, when he was probably 3 years old, 4 years old, I'd say, Dylan, let's take 2 notes. Okay? With these 2 notes, I want you to move one voice, one spot, either up or down. Okay? Now I want you to move the other voice. But I want you to move the things in opposite motion first. It's like, what's that mean? Just move it in a different direction. Okay, if one voice goes up, have the other one go down. And then mirror. If you add 2 notes, then have it mirror 2 notes. If you have it move 3 notes, have it move 3 notes. Okay? And then, so he would start to do that. And I said, now, once you get a little further, add 4 notes. So you might do something like this. And I would say, take the inner voices. And move them away from each other. Now move them back. Now move the outer voices. Try move the outer voices inwards. Then move your inner voices. And then he would start to make these compositions up just by doing that. And I would have him hold the notes down. And this is like improvising counterpoint, okay? Counterpoint is basically, you have 4 types of motion. You have contrary motion, they move in opposite directions. You have parallel motion, that moves at certain intervals. You have similar motion, meaning they can move, they're not necessarily parallel, meaning they're not moving scalar in the same interval combinations. And then you have oblique motion. Oblique motion would be that, where you have one common tone. That would be oblique motion. And those are the things that you have to begin to understand. Those 4 types of motion, how to have notes work against each other. Your first species of counterpoint is when you have a held note and then you have 4 notes against it. And I'm going to do a whole series on this, and that may be one of the next things that I do, where I talk about the different species of counterpoint. But is that what we were talking about? Did I just go off on a tangent?
A little bit.
What was the question? I forgot.
Composition.
Oh, composition, yeah. Well, that's important in composition. Also developing themes, and always be thinking of motifs. Take ideas from composers, and so if I had that, so that's that Bach piece that I was playing for you, Cantata 54 goes. Okay, that's a beautiful theme. Take the shape of it and make it your own. His is, I just did, right? Or I could have gone, I could go, or, ooh, I like that one. So, and then you start developing themes off of that, all right? It's not that, I didn't copy Bach, I copied Bach's rhythmic motif. I copied the shape of intervals, but I didn't copy the intervals. I just copied that there was the, but I did, could be that. That's the same shape, melodic shape with the same rhythmic, and then develop your harmonic ideas off that and start building your counterpoint one part at a time.
Can we have J.S. Bach on sounding off?
I wish.
But on a serious note, can we, somebody is asking if you could do more elaborate videos maybe on Bach.
I absolutely can.
Great.
I want to, but I want to tell you to go on YouTube and watch Bach, A Passionate Life. It's a fantastic BBC documentary that has a lot of new things about his life that I've never heard before, and it's incredibly well done. That's a great starting point. It doesn't really necessarily get into the as many of the nuts and bolts of his compositional techniques. It's a lot of stories about him growing up and things that influenced him. Both his parents died when he was 9, when he's Dylan's age. And think about how traumatic that would be for a 9-year-old to lose both your parents within 6 months of each other. And then he went to live with his uncle, I believed. And that radically changed his grades in school, because the Germans keep track of everything. They have box report cards from, like, he was born in 1685, so when he was in like 3rd and 4th grades. We're talking like, the 1690s that they actually have these things. They went to Eisenach, did I say it right, Aaron? Where he was born, and they looked at his report cards, and then where he moved to with his uncle to the next town over, they had the report cards there. And Bach went from being a midline student up to being at the top of his class in 1 year, and it happened to be the year after his parents died. So it's either that his uncle was, that was a sobering point in his life. Those are transformative things, the pain of losing a parent like that, or some type of a, that stuff was really, you have to think about this. Bach lost 10 of his 20 children in infancy, and imagine the emotional turmoil that costs. My brother lost his son 2 weeks ago, my nephew. And that was profound. He was 30 years old, and they don't know the cause of death. My brother will never be the same. I mean, I'll never be the same. It was tragic. And, you bring these things to your music. Bach, that's why you play chords like, when you think of things like that, you have to find ways to channel that sorrow, and you come up with these beautiful, soaring, melancholy, ideas that are able to, not only lift the libretto that they're using, the lyrics that they're using, and give them meaning, but also to deal with these things in your life, because you're having to compose pieces for every single Sunday, and you have your kids dying, and you're having to work through these things. And he had a wife that died in the middle there. He had 2 different wives. So anyways, I don't know why I got into that tangent, but yes, I can make more elaborate videos on Bach. I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you all for watching. I'm Rick Beato, and this has been the greatest time in my life making these videos for you guys. Please watch my videos, the ones that I put out there on specific people like Keith Jarrett and Aiden Essen. Those are really important. That's why I put them up there. I don't put them up there to have them. I put them up there because I think they're really important for you guys to experience, and they should have 100,000 views each, because I have 100,000 subscribers, and everybody should at least watch them one time. That's the way I feel anyways. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys soon.